So with people on their phones, with people so distracted, it's really important that your profile have a really compelling visual look to it.
You're listening to the Legal Mastermind podcast with your hosts Ryan Klein and Chase Williams, the go-to podcast for learning from the experts in the legal community about effective ways to grow and manage your law firm.
Welcome to another episode of the Legal Mastermind podcast. You have here Ryan Klein, as always, co-host Chase Williams, and today we have Bruce Segall, and we're going to be talking about LinkedIn today. So to start, more specifically, how to develop an effective and comprehensive LinkedIn profile. Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get started, why don't you give our listeners a background on how you got started?
Okay. Well, my company is called Marketing Sense, and I help professionals stand out in the crowded business world. I work both with law firms and small to mid-sized firms. I've been in marketing my whole career. Prior to starting my company, I worked at MasterCard and Citibank in marketing for many years. And then I was director of marketing for a small professional services firm. So I bring a diverse mix of understanding the discipline that comes from working at big companies to the needs and the need for flexibility at a small firm and with solo practitioners. Since opening my own consulting practice, I've focused on being an outsourced marketing director for smaller firms and companies. I do branding, communications, messaging, but at a smaller scale than for larger firms. At the time where I started about 8-10 years ago, my clients were looking to tiptoe into social media. So working with them, we realized what better way than LinkedIn, because that's something that a low-key professional can use to initially become active on LinkedIn. And so out of that work, I started a separate practice training and writing profiles to help people with LinkedIn. What I find particularly enjoyable is crafting people's professional stories. A LinkedIn profile is more personal than a bio, but it still has to be professional. And so in working with my clients, we end up really doing a deep dive into their brand, and they end up with a more polished story as a result. I have a diverse mix of clients. I train firms, I work with solo practitioners, I work with other professional services firms.
Great. So I guess really jumping into it, I think the main thing we're trying to uncover is a lawyer actually using their LinkedIn profile to its full potential, right? So what are some things, if you could, have a quick checklist of maybe like 5 or 6 items that they could check off of their profile as far as optimization goes? So is it creating the URL, making sure obviously there's a profile picture and a background photo, but what do you think would say were like your top 5 things that we want to make sure to have covered on the profile?
Well, that's a big question. I think that the most important thing and a great place for an attorney to start is with the professional headline. And the professional headline is right beside the profile, the profile photo. And it is often, for many attorneys, they're defaulting to their current title. So it's just partner XYZ law firm. And that's really a missed opportunity, because LinkedIn allows that to be customized up to 120 characters. So you get the opportunity to do what many of us call an elevator speech in 120 characters or less, really talking about what differentiates your brand. So if someone's searching on LinkedIn litigation or IP attorneys in Seattle and a whole list comes up, and that way you can stand out from the crowd because you have a customized message there. And there's a lot of creative ways to present this. Sometimes you do it in short phrases. Sometimes things are more straightforward or a little clever, depending on the attorney, his or her practice, and what they feel comfortable with. You talked about photos. It's generally with attorneys because they have a professional photo from their website. Typically that works well. So that's one area that generally is critical, but usually attorneys have that covered off. The next most important thing is the About section. And that is at the top of your profile. There is LinkedIn's version of a bio. So again, this is your opportunity. It's not just copying and pasting your website bio, but this is an opportunity to craft something that is still professional but specific to LinkedIn. And if you notice, for about the last year, LinkedIn has only shown the first 2 or 3 lines of the About section. So the rest of it is hidden, so that it's really in the attorney's interest to have something provoking that causes the reader to click on the little More button so that they read the whole profile. So this can be, for example, a question, something that focuses on their prospects and the kinds of challenges that they're facing. That creates some interest, and so the reader will click on the little More button.
And how long do you recommend the About section be?
Well, the limit, I would recommend about 1,500 characters. You can theoretically go up, so that's about 2 or 3 short paragraphs. Now you can go a little bit, almost to double that, but there's just a limited amount that you can, that people will read on LinkedIn in general terms. And I think it's really important for attorneys and others to realize that people aren't just reading a profile like a legal document where they're reading every section, then going to the next section. About 60% of the views on LinkedIn are from a mobile phone. So people are skimming around a profile a lot. They may be reading certain sections, they may be skimming. So it's really to put in paragraphs, particularly long, dense paragraphs, is really a mistake. And I have a way of writing profiles that I recommend, which is short paragraphs. You could even use capital letters because LinkedIn doesn't allow bold or underline in that section. You can use bulleted lists, checklists, so that really all of those techniques are really to your advantage. The third thing that's really important for a profile is, and I know can be kind of hard for the attorneys to internalize, but the visuals. So with people on their phones, with people so distracted, it's really important that your profile have a really compelling visual look to it. And you alluded to the background picture. So that is above your photo. In the background, you have an opportunity to personalize, to customize. This could be an image from your website. It could be potentially your logo if it lends itself well. But this is something that you really will get you a lot more attention when someone clicks on your profile. LinkedIn has a brand new featured section just below the About. And so this has an opportunity. You can put a link to your website and it will create an image. You could put a video, a photograph, even one of your LinkedIn posts, your recent LinkedIn posts. You can put, if you have photos of you presenting any of your recent presentations. So this becomes like a gallery and a showcase on you, but it's all in visual terms. And I think that is something that is taking the legal community some time to get used to. Would you like me to continue with some more elements from the profile?
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I really am enjoying everything you're saying so far. I think once you do like 5 or so, I'll probably ask a couple questions to elaborate on just like a couple of them.
Okay, well then let me just do one more, which is, because we talked about the About statement, and then I'd say the fourth most important thing in your profile would be your description of your current experience. And what some people make the mistake of doing is that they copy the About and they repeat it in the current experience. So if About is kind of about you as an attorney, what you focus on, how you work with clients, you can get in the current experience section a little bit more granular and talk about some of the representative matters that you've worked on, if you're at liberty to share some of the clients, some of the specific practices and services that you provide. So again, you have to think through carefully what you want in each section and how it balances with the other sections.
Sure. And then I'd probably recommend also anyone listening, if they are in front of a computer, they can pull up their own LinkedIn profile while they're listening and kind of like put, the visuals, what you're talking to what you're describing.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's what I started doing. Once we started getting into it, I'm like, yep, there's featured, there's about. So yeah, I absolutely love those highlights. So to kind of go back to the beginning, especially since when you're doing a search and you're seeing a list of people, really you just see like how closely connected you are. Like, are you first connection, second, third? You see their image, you see their name, and then you really see their title. So you're talking about approaches to like simply a job title or being a little descriptive. So for example, I see some people that just say owner, CEO, sure, right? But then you're
Right.
talking
So
about
I'm talking
titles.
about replacing that with something that is more descriptive and about what you do.
Right. So like this person says they help businesses do this. They can help you generate this. Like
Yeah, exactly. I look at it as free advertising for yourself, free space that you can take up on LinkedIn and the internet. And so why not leverage it with other than something that just says, owner XYZ law firm or
Yeah, I think that's great. What do you think about best practices as far as like some special characters I see? I know marketers love using like a graph with an upward trend or a check mark. How do you feel about that?
well, I think that a check mark is fine. I don't know a graph with an upward trend. I mean, that could be used in the image. So I think it's a balance. You want to be visually catchy, but if some profiles are just filled with exclamation points and all these symbols and someone, razzle dazzle. And I don't think that really fits with the personality of most attorneys. So this is an extension of your personal brand. And so you want it something that you're comfortable with. So for many of the attorneys that I've worked with, if let's just say I were to craft a profile like that and I would convince them to let me, to have it implemented, I think they wouldn't be comfortable with it and they wouldn't really refer people to LinkedIn. So it has to be something that is comfortable with the dignified, which is catchy, but also comfortable with the dignified way that attorneys would want to present themselves.
And then you also said before about telling a story. Is there a different approach that you take to kind of telling a story about your background and your experience on LinkedIn as it would be maybe different in like in a bio, like an attorney bio on their website? How would it differ and how would you approach it differently?
Absolutely. This is social media, so I think there's the opportunity to be more personal. Of course, there's a wide range in attorney bios, and many are what I call in a corporate third-person style. First, I recommend that the LinkedIn profile be written in the first person. So that doesn't mean that every sentence begins with I, but you're focusing on the prospect, but also telling it as a story. And I think it's appropriate also to bring in perhaps elements of your personal story in a way that you wouldn't necessarily in a firm profile. For example, I have a client right now that she spent a year traveling through Asia, just taking off from the workforce and traveling through Asia, and that she feels has given her a perspective on different cultures and makes her comfortable with working with all different kinds of clients. And I think that that's appropriate to include, and we are including it in her LinkedIn profile versus, depending on a firm's bio, you might not include something like that.
Anything you want to touch on about the specific profile? Because I have a couple questions about, relating about some of the premium features. And I mean, the thing that I love about LinkedIn is you can see who's viewed your profile.
Right. So just there's one more example that I just want to bring out. There's a wonderful, so we talked about the about section and we talked about the banner, the image at the top, and there's a wonderful example that I just wanted to bring out where it's an IP attorney in New York who has a picture from a museum in Europe. And then she ties that in her about section to the why she chose that picture and how it ties into her practice. So I think that that's a wonderfully creative technique. So I just wanted that you can be really creative in these profiles, yet still being, quote, lawyerly and professional, which I think she definitely was. In terms of your question about premium features and who's viewed your profile, I would say that in general, I think that most people are not leveraging the free features of LinkedIn. And so therefore, I do not generally recommend that people jump immediately to a premium program. Having said that, people have to become more disciplined in terms of using those premium features and using LinkedIn. So for the example that you just brought up, in terms of the profile views, you can, as a free member, you can see the last 3 people who checked your profile. But after that, LinkedIn will hide that and try to get you to upgrade. So what that means for the free users, they have to be in the discipline of checking their LinkedIn profile views every few days. So that really is, in terms of a free user or even a paid user, it's really the discipline, checking your profile views, checking the profiles of people before you meet them. You can even download a profile to a PDF and read it later, or refer it to it later. So there's a lot you can do in the free version.
Awesome. And I know one feature that is really powerful is a recommendations feature. So getting recommendations and giving recommendations.
Right.
What are some best practices around, I guess, soliciting for recommendations and then giving recommendations?
Yeah, I think that it is an area that attorneys do need to be comfortable for. Need to be cautious. Attorneys need to be cautious around soliciting and receiving recommendations. And there are some guidelines at the US level, the American Bar Association, but each state issues guidelines around attorney advertising. And I know here in New York State, I've seen the advice that to be very careful about a quid pro quo. So, hey, Ryan, I'm going to ask you for a recommendation, and then 2 days later, a recommendation from you appears on my profile. Some attorneys I think many attorneys actually shy away from recommendations because of the whole, at least in New York, because of the whole attorney advertising consideration. But having said that, they certainly are a good thing to have. One thing that, and this question does come up from time to time, in terms of the attorney advertising guidelines, a few attorneys do put at the bottom of their profile attorney advertising, the little disclaimer. And I don't think I rarely see it anymore, but at the same time, if someone wants to put it, it's not really a problem.
That's interesting. I wouldn't think of LinkedIn as like technically falling under a marketing or advertising platform. I think it would be specifically networking. I don't know if there's separate designations.
I think, again, it's very state dependent. And I know here in New York State, I saw some guidance that said that, well, if you just have a very simple LinkedIn profile, which just lists, your position, your current position, your past position, your bar association, your law school, then that's not attorney advertising. But as soon as you write a profile like what I'm recommending, then that falls into attorney advertising. So there isn't really a lot of firm guidance on this, I would say. It's kind of, it's hard to say. And, right now, it shouldn't be an obstacle to an attorney's being active on LinkedIn, especially right now.
So every profile has a dashboard, and this dashboard is saying who viewed your profile, post views, search appearances. So would you say that, anyone that is like, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to implement these recommendations, can they use that dashboard to see or like quantify what kind of impact it's had on their profile?
The answer is yes, but. So yes, they can, but if it's not accompanied by an increase in activity on LinkedIn, they may be disappointed in the results. So what I recommend is that my clients really, sort of sit down with the improved profile along with a set of what I call protocol or activities that we agree to that might take 15 minutes a week, 30 minutes a week, an hour over the next month. And if they do those activities consistently, that in combination with the improved profile will cause those indicators to improve.
Are you saying that some of these updates or improvements they can make, some may be one time, but some are going to be ongoing?
Right. Well, what we've been mostly talking about is your profile, improving that. That's generally a one-time process. It should be updated, once a year. But then what I was referring to was your activity on LinkedIn, which is your posting, which does need to occur according to some regular schedule. be it once a week or once a month or even once a quarter. But people that are basically silent on LinkedIn after putting in some profile changes, they're unlikely to be seeing much business results.
Okay. Do you think we should touch on maybe some of the ongoing aspects of maximizing your LinkedIn profile?
Presence, yeah. Some of the ongoing aspects relate to the posting, and there are many. So this is right, if you're on LinkedIn, right in the homepage, right in the center, it says start a post. And there's many different options for that. You can, just like in the profile, you can post a picture, you can post a video, you can post a link, you can do a plain text post. So that's kind of like the what. And then the second thing would be what are you going to post on? So there you need to think about, are there any representative matters for your firm that you can talk about in general terms? Have you just been appointed to a prestigious volunteer position? Is your office moving? All of these things, particularly if I think they have a personal element. So I can see a picture of my connection. I can see the picture of their new office. That is going to have a lot of impact. I worked with a divorce attorney who actually did a series of videos from her car, just about, different things that were happening. It's the holiday season and we're all kind of stressed, and this is how I'm reacting to it. So it just gave her like a personal element that is missing from many attorneys' marketing. And I think that those types of things can do really, really well on LinkedIn. There's also the opportunity to do longer articles. So we talked about short posts. There are opportunities to do articles for anywhere from 500 to 2,000 words. These become a permanent part of your profile. You can use that instead of a blog. They have a permanent URL that doesn't require a LinkedIn account to access. So that's a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate your thought leadership in more detail while you stay visible through the shorter posts. Another thing that's really great is just simply LinkedIn messaging and using that as a good way to stay in touch with your contacts. I know of an attorney who had a little bit of a slow period in his business, and he just marked down an hour a day to just find different connections and reconnect with them, figure out what was a relevant piece of information that he could send to them. And that resulted in a significant new business matter being awarded to him just by reconnecting, just by paying attention to what you see in your feed, seeing who has a new position, seeing who just won a case.
With that, if there's anything else that you want to mention, any other tip or best practice, we can mention that. Otherwise, we'll start the outro and then we'll start.
There is one more topic that I wanted to just touch on, which
Sure.
is LinkedIn for the solo practitioner. LinkedIn is a way that the solo practitioner can just make himself or herself seem a little bit more bigger than they really are. And so they can use all these free tools that are available from LinkedIn in terms of messaging, posting updates, posting articles to create an ongoing presence for themselves. If they have people that work with them, so they may be the only attorney in their practice, but they have a paralegal, an assistant, maybe a part-time attorney, they can create a company page, and those individuals can be made employees of the company page. And so that person no longer looks like a solo practitioner, but they look like a person with a 3 or 4 person company. You can also start a group or a page if you're in a consortium with other professionals, other attorneys that is focused on a particular issue in the legal or business community. So again, that makes you seem a little bit bigger than you would normally.
So Bruce, if people want to reach out to you and discuss more tips for LinkedIn or possibly learn about working with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Well, the best and easiest way is through LinkedIn. I hope everyone has a LinkedIn account. My name is spelled Bruce, Segall, and you can search me on LinkedIn and invite me to connect, send me a message if you can't find me. That's a bit of a problem, but hopefully you can. But let me also just give you my email address. It's Bruce@marketingsense. So both words written out, SENSE, 2.com.
And I didn't have any issue finding your LinkedIn profile.
That's good to hear.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for listening to the Legal Mastermind podcast. If you're interested in working with Ryan and Chase, please email mastermind@marketmymarket.com. Make sure to join the free mastermind group for growing and managing your firm at lawfirmmastermind.com. Ryan Klein and Chase Williams are the managing partners at Market My Market, one of the top legal marketing companies in the United States.